The 1980s are often remembered for neon lights, synthesizer soundtracks, and explosive blockbusters. But beneath the surface of mainstream hits lived a different kind of cinema. These were films that audiences didn't fully understand at the time. Critics were divided. Box office numbers were sometimes disappointing. Studios struggled to market them. Yet decades later, their influence is everywhere. They predicted technological anxiety, corporate overreach, artificial intelligence, media manipulation, and the collapse of identity in a digital age. What once felt strange now feels prophetic. These movies weren't simply entertaining. They were warning signals disguised as genre films. They challenged viewers instead of comforting them. They asked questions the culture wasn't ready to answer. Today, their themes dominate modern storytelling. Looking back, it's clear they weren't failures or oddities. They were blueprints for the future of cinema itself and modern culture.
RoboCop, 1987. On the surface, RoboCop appeared to be a violent action spectacle, but director Paul Verhoeven infused it with razor-sharp satire. Set in a crime-ridden Detroit controlled by corporations, the story follows a murdered officer rebuilt as a cyborg law enforcer. Audiences initially focused on its explosive violence and quotable one-liners. Beneath that surface, however, lay biting commentary about privatization, media sensationalism, and corporate greed. The fictional commercial scattered throughout the film mocked consumer culture in ways that feel startlingly current. RoboCop questioned whether humanity survives when identity becomes intellectual property. Its portrayal of a corporation treating law enforcement as a business predicted debates about militarized policing and profit-driven governance. Though marketed as simple action, it functioned as dystopian satire. Decades later, its blend of brutality and social critique feels less exaggerated and more like a reflection of systemic realities.
Tron, 1982. When Tron debuted, computer graphics were in their infancy. Directed by Steven Lisberger and starring Jeff Bridges, the film transported a programmer inside a digital world governed by authoritarian software. Audiences were intrigued but uncertain how to interpret its glowing landscapes and arcade-inspired narrative. Critics questioned whether its groundbreaking visuals overshadowed character depth. However, Tron predicted the cultural shift toward virtual spaces long before the internet reshaped daily life. Its depiction of programs as sentient entities foreshadowed debates about digital identity and online autonomy. The film pioneered computer-generated imagery that influenced visual effects for decades. What once looked experimental now resembles the foundation of virtual reality storytelling. Tron imagined humans interacting within immersive digital systems at a time when personal computing was still emerging, proving its conceptual ambition exceeded contemporary technological limits.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 1988. Blending live action and animation at an unprecedented scale, Who Framed Roger Rabbit redefined technical possibility. Directed by Robert Zemeckis and starring Bob Hoskins, the film placed cartoon characters within a noir detective story. Its seamless integration required groundbreaking visual effects and meticulous lighting to make animated figures appear physically present. Beyond technical achievement, the narrative explored corporate monopolies and urban displacement disguised as family entertainment. The villain's plan to dismantle public transportation echoed real-world economic shifts. At release, audiences marveled at its novelty without fully recognizing its layered satire. The film also united rival animation studios' characters on screen, an unprecedented collaboration. Today, hybrid storytelling and digital characters dominate cinema, but Roger Rabbit pioneered that integration. It proved animation could coexist with live action convincingly while embedding surprisingly mature social commentary.
Brazil, 1985. Directed by Terry Gilliam, Brazil presented a dystopian future suffocated by bureaucracy and absurd paperwork. Its dark humor and surreal production design confused test audiences expecting straightforward science fiction. The studio famously attempted to recut it with a happier ending, fearing its bleak satire would alienate viewers. Set in a retro-futuristic society ruled by malfunctioning systems, the film captured anxieties about government overreach and institutional incompetence. Gilliam's imaginative visuals created a world that felt both outdated and eerily familiar. Decades later, its themes of surveillance, data errors, and dehumanizing red tape feel increasingly relevant. Brazil refused narrative comfort, ending on a note of psychological escape rather than triumph. Its blend of fantasy and oppression influenced countless dystopian films and television series. What seemed exaggerated in the 80s now resembles everyday frustrations within complex administrative and digital systems worldwide.
Blade Runner, 1982. When Blade Runner arrived in 1982, audiences expected a fast-paced science fiction adventure led by Harrison Ford. Instead, director Ridley Scott delivered a slow-burning meditation on artificial intelligence, memory, and what it truly means to be human. The rain-soaked neon cityscape felt oppressive rather than thrilling, and its philosophical tone confused viewers seeking simple action. The film underperformed initially, criticized for pacing and ambiguity. Yet its vision of corporate dominance, bioengineered beings, and moral uncertainty proved prophetic. Today, discussions about AI ethics and synthetic life mirror the questions Blade Runner raised decades ago. Its production design influenced cyberpunk aesthetics across film, gaming, and fashion. The replicants were not monsters, but tragic figures searching for identity. Modern science fiction frequently borrows its visual language and existential themes, confirming how far ahead of its era this haunting masterpiece truly was.
The Thing, 1982. Released the same year as optimistic alien adventures, The Thing shocked audiences with paranoia and despair. Directed by John Carpenter and starring Kurt Russell, the film depicted an Antarctic research team hunted by a shape-shifting organism. Its grotesque practical effects horrified viewers, while its refusal to offer clear answers frustrated mainstream expectations. Critics initially dismissed it as excessive and nihilistic. Over time, however, its themes of mistrust and invisible infiltration gained cultural relevance. The film anticipated an era defined by conspiracy theories, viral threats, and social fragmentation. Its practical creature effects remain astonishing, influencing horror filmmakers who value tangible realism over digital shortcuts. The ambiguous ending, leaving survival uncertain, now feels daring rather than bleak. The Thing predicted a world where fear comes not from monsters outside, but from the impossibility of knowing who stands beside you in crisis.
Videodrome, 1983. David Cronenberg crafted Videodrome as a psychological descent into media addiction long before smartphones dominated daily life. Starring James Woods, the film follows a television executive exposed to a broadcast signal that alters perception and reality. Its body horror imagery disturbed audiences, blending flesh with technology in surreal ways. In 1983, its warning about media manipulation seemed exaggerated. Today, it feels prophetic. The idea that screens reshape identity, desensitize viewers, and distort truth mirrors modern concerns about algorithm-driven content and virtual realities. Cronenberg's practical effects made technology feel organic and invasive. Rather than offering clear moral guidance, the film immerses viewers in psychological fragmentation. Videodrome foresaw the merging of human consciousness with digital environments, anticipating debates about misinformation and immersive media. What once appeared bizarre now reads as a chilling forecast of modern digital existence.
Akira, 1988. Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira revolutionized animation by proving the medium could handle mature political and psychological themes. Set in a neon-drenched Neo-Tokyo, rebuilt after catastrophe, the film explores government experimentation, youth unrest, and uncontrolled power. Its fluid animation and explosive visuals stunned international audiences unfamiliar with such ambitious animated storytelling. In 1988, Western viewers often associated animation with children's entertainment, limiting its immediate commercial reach. Yet Akira anticipated cyberpunk's global dominance and influenced filmmakers, musicians, and game designers worldwide. Themes of political corruption, psychic evolution, and urban alienation echo strongly today. Its apocalyptic imagery predicted anxieties surrounding nuclear fear and technological acceleration. The film demonstrated that animation could rival live-action cinema in scale and emotional intensity. Modern animated science fiction owes a clear debt to its daring vision. Akira did not just predict the future of genre storytelling, it reshaped it permanently.
They Live, 1988. Another film by John Carpenter, They Live disguised social commentary as science fiction action. Starring Roddy Piper, it follows a drifter who discovers sunglasses revealing subliminal messages controlling society. Billboards command obedience. Television broadcasts conceal alien elites exploiting humanity. In the late 80s, its conspiracy premise felt outrageous and campy. Today, its themes of hidden influence, consumer manipulation, and media distortion resonate powerfully. Carpenter used simple visual devices to expose ideological control, turning everyday advertising into authoritarian messaging. The film's famous alley fight balanced absurdity with raw physicality. Rather than offering complex exposition, it presented a blunt metaphor about systemic exploitation. Modern audiences see parallels in discussions about propaganda and economic inequality. They Live was not merely a cult oddity, it was a sharp critique of consumer capitalism that only grows more relevant. The Terminator, 1984. Directed by James Cameron and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Terminator blended science fiction with relentless horror pacing. Audiences embraced its action, but underestimated its warning about artificial intelligence. Skynet, a defense network that becomes self-aware, launches nuclear annihilation after interpreting humanity as a threat. In the early 80s, this premise felt like exaggerated Cold War paranoia. Today, concerns about autonomous weapons and AI-driven decision-making make its narrative unsettlingly plausible. Cameron's low-budget production relied on practical effects and tight storytelling, emphasizing inevitability rather than spectacle. The cyborg antagonist represented unstoppable technological escalation. While sequels expanded the franchise, the original film's stark tone and apocalyptic vision remain potent. It framed artificial intelligence not as helpful innovation, but as existential danger, anticipating ethical debates that now dominate global technological discourse.
The films of the 1980s often carried bold ideas hidden beneath genre surfaces. What once seemed strange, excessive, or commercially risky now feels visionary. They anticipated artificial intelligence debates, corporate dominance, media manipulation, digital immersion, and social fragmentation long before those concerns dominated headlines. Many struggled critically or financially because audiences were unprepared for their themes. Time, however, reshaped their reputations. Their visual innovations influenced generations of filmmakers. Their warnings echo louder in a technologically accelerated world. Rather than simply reflecting their decade, these films projected forward, imagining futures both dazzling and disturbing. Modern cinema repeatedly revisits their concepts, sometimes without matching their originality. The distance of decades reveals their clarity. They were not just products of neon excess or blockbuster ambition. They were prophetic experiments that challenged comfort and predicted transformation. In hindsight, the future they imagined no longer feels distant. It feels like the present.